what's up?
Yes, I thought we should talk about record keeping, because quite a lot of new homeschooling moms are wondering, do they need to keep records? What records must they keep? And, you know, it's quite a commonly asked question. So you go first and I'll chip in.
Yeah, so I've done everything. I've overkept. I've, you know, detailed every single little bit of everything. And then I've got to the point later in homeschooling where it was whatever happens, you know. So I think that there is that kind of time where in the beginning you planning and scheduling and record keeping and everything, and then as you go along and you realize, and I think it's a question that we can address just now, is like, who am I actually keeping these records for? That you kind of find the balance that you need for your family. So maybe off the bat we need to say that we're not speaking about your typical sort of CAPS-based home education or distance education. CAPS is a different story, so we're not even going to cover that. So that might, you know, just so that we've got a line in the sand. What we're talking about more is in an eclectic home education style. What would record keeping look like? And how much needs to be kept, and for what purposes? And also what can you keep? You know, if you've got one kid, you've probably got much more storage space to keep every single little book and every single little piece of drawing that they've done. But if you've got 4 kids or 6 kids, yeah, you're going to run out of space very quickly. How long should you keep records? These are the kind of questions that we've got. So I'm going to throw the question straight back at you.
Okay, well, I was the opposite of you in that I never really worried too much about keeping records, because I felt, who am I keeping this for? If anybody ever wants to know what my children are learning, we did usually have various curriculum products that they were working through, and I knew that I would easily be able to show this is the level they're at. They're mastering, you know, this kind of maths or this kind of science or this kind of English. And so I always felt, you know, I would have evidence that my children have been learning. Yeah. And an assessment would always prove what grade level they are at, if they ever needed that kind of actual proof. So I didn't worry about it too much. It was more a kind of keeping a record for our own sentimental reasons, you know, so lab book projects that we made, or posters and photos, and those kind of things are the records that we have, and it's more what we treasure.
Yeah.
But parents do want to be able to kind of assess how their children are doing, and you're involved, so you just have to ask your children questions, and, you know, the projects that they make, the artwork that they produce, those all show you how you know that your children are learning. So yeah, that's actually testing, which we have covered. I think we can possibly link to that. So I don't think record keeping for me was that important. Yeah, I think if the law changes, it might become more important, but right now, you know, as long as you know that your children are learning and you believe that you could show that, or, you know, it shouldn't be an issue. You can keep if you want to. It's up to you.
Yeah. I had a friend who had a very simple but very effective Excel spreadsheet. And, you know, her columns were simply the program that she wanted to do and how far she would like to get in that term. And then she had a block where she would put in comments about how her and her child felt about what they had done and where they'd got. And then her daughter actually had a little place where she could add her own things, that I really like this, or this was terribly boring, or whatever. And at the end of every year, she could just save an Excel spreadsheet, which really, you know, up in the cloud takes no space. And the rest of the stuff was done on a photographic basis. Which I did as well. Any big projects, I would just take photographs of and put it in on a folder on my desktop. Homeschool, child's, or the year, and then the children's had different folders, and their pictures would go in there. When we finished homeschooling a couple of years ago, one of the things that I did do is I had lots of crates of old books that had been completed. like your maths worksheets and all the notebook pages from the science session series and that sort of thing. And those I eventually threw away, but I kept for many years because those were, they had sentimental value to me. I don't know why, but they did. And all of a sudden I had all these empty crates. But the books that I did end up keeping were the ones that I felt that either my children would use with their own children, or were just so precious in terms of the lovely memories that we had reading those books. Those were not going to be gone. But what happens when we keep everything, it just becomes unnecessary baggage. So that was one of the things. And look, I mean, it depends what if the law does change, like you say. If they're going to start asking you to keep records of attendance and that sort of thing, I think it's pretty asinine. But parents might need to figure those sort of things out. But if you've planned your year ahead, it's probably the easiest way is as a record keeping. At the end of the day, just put a tick mark there, and you can put a date and say that was covered on that day. Even in a big old-fashioned bank diary, you could write what you covered. If you're an unschooling mom, just write what you've done in the day, and that's your record keeping.
Yeah, I think a lot of moms do that. And I think for a short while I did have a diary where I just each day make a note of what we'd covered that day. Other ways I had was that I often scheduled work for my children so that they could get on with tasks on their own. And then we've got those daily, those sheets of the planning sheets for the week, So I knew I had various sort of forms of records that I could produce if I needed to, but that wasn't why I set out to do them. So I think if it's something you really want to do, go and do it. Create your Excel spreadsheet. And if you're feeling like that's not your style and you're more relaxed, that's the beauty of homeschooling. Every family can decide what they want to do for themselves. There actually isn't a formula, and maybe that's our answer in a nutshell.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good nutshell to end this on. So yeah, good, simple and easy. Nice chatting.
Yes.